Hi, how you doing? We're from LMC-TV. Can I ask you the questions of the day today? All right. You want to hear them?
What are they? I'm curious.
Do you eat peas with a spoon or a fork?
Hi, I'm Eric Lewis. I'm the new Executive Director for LMC-TV, excuse me. And we decided to have this impromptu program, essentially, to bring to the community what the town of Mamaroneck is doing regarding Y2K and preparedness for it. And we have with us here Steve Altieri, the town administrator, and Ed McCormack, the ambulance district administrator. Now, many people, I'm sure, have already seen Steve Altieri on our airwaves, our cable waves, but I don't know how many people have met Ed McCormack. So before we get into Y2K, I'd like to introduce Ed McCormack and ask Ed to explain to the citizenry, to the audience, what it is that you do.
Well, a couple of different things. Primarily, I'm the ambulance district administrator, overseeing the emergency services from the paramedic level for both Larchmont volunteers and Mamaroneck volunteers. Probably a second responsibility has to do with emergency management and coordinating plans, planning and emergency response for storms and other situations that might arise in the town of Mamaroneck, and producing the plan itself to work from, which has been drafted and completed in its initial form this year, and to address concerns such as Y2K and other things that come up, as a emergency management type of concern.
Oh, well, I know that we met informally at first, and I was interested to learn that LMC-TV is actually a part of the disaster planning for the town of Mamaroneck and Larchmont and the village of Mamaroneck, as I understand. So I was interested to hear that. Could you tell us about how LMC-TV fits into that a little bit?
Certainly. LMC-TV serves a major purpose as a source for advising the community of what the plans are, what it is the town is attempting to do in order to respond to situations. It's also a way for us to provide information in advance, or in some situations while something is going on. If a situation is changing rapidly, we would hope that the community would turn to LMC-TV as one source anyway, and hopefully a main one in this case, for information as to what's going on, if there are concerns, if there's phone numbers where information can be obtained, or if there's things that people can do to help themselves, which is probably a lot of what we'd like to talk about, is how to prepare yourself for any type of emergency situation, be it a storm or if in fact there's any concerns raised with Y2K this year.
That's great. I'm really glad to hear that we are a part of it, and actually it makes me feel good. It makes me proud. And one other question before we get more into the Y2K and speak to Steve Altieri. You have entered into the ambulance service, and as you yourself are a paramedic?
Yes,
okay.
Been a paramedic for probably more years than I care to remember.
Oh, I don't think you look like you have more years than you care to remember, but
in a long time.
Okay.
But the last several years in management, been with the town of Mamaroneck since 1994. Initially part-time and currently full-time. Mainly overseeing the operation of the ambulance district.
It was really Ed's experience not only as a paramedic, but as having been one that supervised paramedics and supervised an ambulance operation that attracted us to him when we were looking to find someone to run the newly created ambulance district.
Well, there was recently a film about an ambulance driver, a paramedic, as I understand, and it's that kind of person persona, and that popular culture puts forward, and it is my idea of what a paramedic is. Just as a little background to yourself personally, why did you get into paramedics? What is it about you that drew you to that vocation?
Well, personally, it goes back a long, long way to an experience with a close friend who died suddenly and not being able to help them. And that kind of spurred an interest and followed it up my whole life at this point. And I guess I haven't seen the movie, but I think it does depict, from what I've heard, a very urban paramedic in a lot of stress. But we have a fantastic system in the town of Mamaroneck that is collaborative with the villages, the village of Mamaroneck and the village of Larchmont, in providing ambulance services at the paramedic level. Very experienced paramedics who are backed up by volunteers from both corps. So the service is kind of combined between paid and volunteer, and very successful, I believe, and very high quality. And this is important. I think that was some of the objectives that were set out to be accomplished with the ambulance district, and I think we have that today. It's a very reliable paramedic level and volunteer infrastructure to the system. It works well.
Great. Well, let's jump now into the Y2K problem. Everybody's heard about Y2K. Everybody's heard, what's going to happen. There's a great Nike commercial with somebody running through the world and everything bursting out into chaos and the world tumbling around their shoulders and their feet, and they just say, go, whatever the Nike phrase is, which is a very well-made commercial. Should the town of should the citizens, should our viewership, should they worry? What's going on? No, I'll ask this to Steve.
Well, just very briefly, background. Very early in 1999, the supervisor and the town board said to the staff, we need to make sure we're prepared, and we began a process with the department heads, and so we're very quickly, to touch on the computer component of this, the town of Mamaroneck's computers, we have been advised by all of the consultants and producers of our software that we're prepared for Y2K. Important point, though, is that none of the computers that we use require direct access by the residents. So one of the things we do want the residents to be comfortable with is that all of our services are going to continue as they operate right now, and we're not anticipating any change in that. The backup systems have been put in place, and fortunately we're small enough that some of our administrative departments can go to a manual system for some short period of time. What Ed has been working on with the staff is how we are prepared for what might occur, the things that we've heard about, all the hype about, when the clocks turn over and how people view the change to January 1. And so what we've done is created a plan that gives the community assurance that the town of Mamaroneck is prepared for almost any eventuality that I can think of.
Right.
Do you agree?
I would agree. The concerns with Y2K are primarily based on a programming glitch, I guess you might call it, where the date won't roll over properly, and this could cause programming to fail, computer programs to crash and fail. It could cause, there's embedded chips that are date sensitive, and so there's a fear that certain systems dependent on programming could fail. So this could translate into a number of things. For us, we believe we've looked at it pretty thoroughly, and those things that are vital and have assurance that they're not a concern at this point. Nonetheless, to be cautiously optimistic, one needs to take certain measures, and so it's really an expansion of the emergency planning process, which is a necessity of government. This is just a subset of looking at a situation and applying that plan to this situation. So we've looked at all the emergency services in terms of fire and police, ambulance, and highway services, vital support services and vital emergency response services, and have made sure that there is a plan in place in order for them to be able to respond for any reasonably predictable failure, which we don't really expect. So this involves a few extra personnel pretty much throughout each department, some contingency planning for visibility for the police officers if in fact there was a power failure or some other, it's almost more that we'd be looking at, if it's inclement weather on December 31st, January 1st, would probably pose more of a problem that we'd expect to see. Hopefully that won't happen, but we're kind of preparing the same way we would prepare really for a large storm. or any other kind of situation. Prepared the same way, and at least in our planning, we don't see the need to have everything fully upgraded for that date, but we are prepared to bring people in. We have extra people in some of the response services, and we're confident that there's going to be little need for that, but at the same time prepared to respond to just about anything that could occur.
For instance, all of the heads of the departments of the town government have been placed in sort of an on-call situation where we've prepared a listing of how all these people can be reached. All of those people are going to be in Westchester County on that evening so that they are no more than 20 or 25 minutes away. And as Ed mentioned, we've put on additional police personnel that will be in town. The fire department is going to make certain that they are staffed. And so all of these things are there should there be a need for it.
Another part of it is in making sure that there's a common approach to this amongst the local municipalities. So we have talked to the Village of Mamaroneck, to the Village of Larchmont. We've been participating in meetings that were sponsored by New York United Hospital Medical Center for Shore Communities, cooperative effort towards any issues that come up regarding sheltering or reception centers. Like I said before, we don't see that that's going to be needed, but at the same time, I think it would be unwise not to consider it and not to at least participate in the process. But we were ahead of that curve somewhat anyway, and as far as the town of Mamaroneck, and in terms of dealing with Hurricane Floyd and the heat wave recently, we had activated shelters that were minimally necessary. But so it's kind of moving along that same path, and in terms of this situation, hopefully being prepared and have those things kind of thought of ahead of time. And so there is a cooperative nature to it where we're keeping in touch with everybody, and that also includes keeping in touch with the hospitals directly, as well as the county's emergency management office, which will be open and monitoring the situation throughout the period, as well as other communities and other sources of support such as Con Edison. And so all of these agencies are kind of part of this planning process where we reach out to them or they reach out to us and we talk back and forth. We have a plan in place where we can reach key people pretty much instantly if necessary.
We should thank the Village of Mamaroneck for working with us on a program for sheltering that took into account power, no power, some power, and so they were very helpful in developing a plan should it be necessary.
Once again, emphasizing that this is a should-it-be necessary situation,
Yeah. Oh,
not something
absolutely.
that you're thinking that's going to actually happen. But what is the sheltering plan? What physical buildings are you going to use? What actually is the plan?
The initial plan for the town of Mamaroneck would rely upon the fire headquarters on Weaver Street as we would call it probably more a reception center than a shelter, although it's prepared to house people overnight. And that would be our front line of defense, would be the place where we would initially move persons and we would have some access to provide transportation if necessary, as we have done in the past, and relocate them to the shelter where there's a generator, so there's guarantee of power, and there's certain access to other immediate needs such as water or food and
Bathroom
shelter
facilities.
and air conditioning and such. So the fire department is our first line of defense. We would look at, we have a couple other locations identified within the town of Mamaroneck, and also there's locations identified within the villages which would probably be used in some cooperative manner or depending on who had power and who didn't. If it was a larger group that you needed to shelter, I guess we don't see like the experience has been a very minimal need for sheltering. It's a community that's resourceful, that thinks about these things generally in advance, and tends to deal well with some difficulties. And so we expect that to continue, but at the same time, you're prepared if the need suddenly was to be more or greater. The county obviously also has a larger plan, which we're part of in terms of cooperating and being a part of their sheltering system, and we could rely upon them as well for additional resources.
Okay. We've talked a little bit about what the town has done. Let's take it from the point of view of the citizen. Okay, let's say something does happen, mildly or even more severely. Let's say some generator goes out, electricity goes out, some glitch that occurs. What should the individual do? you know, in response to that? Where should they look to for information, and where can they actually go to physically if they need to go someplace?
I would suggest that LMC-TV is a source of information, that there are local radio stations that we would use for transmitting information. In terms of contact for the town of Mamaroneck, would be the police department's non-emergency number, which is 381-6100. And that's the number that would be manned for this particular situation and generally be used as our main line for direct resident information during most of these types of events. There's a second part to the question.
We should interrupt. Let me interrupt at this point and say one of the things we want to advise the community about is that, you know, you may see things that appear quirky to you. Maybe because it's Y2K and you see a traffic light acting a little strange, even though we don't believe that's going to happen. You want to make a phone call about that. Or you're just concerned about something and you want to make a phone call. We are trying to urge the residents to please not use the 911 system unless you have a truly life-threatening emergency. 381-6100, which is the town of Mamaroneck's main police number, is answered very promptly, and so they're prepared to give information, as Ed mentioned, and we don't want to see our 911 system overloaded. And that's really advice for residents in the two villages as well, but for residents of the unincorporated area, 381-6100 is the number. Right,
and for the village of Larchmont and for the village of Mamaroneck, we'll be putting the numbers up to call after the show so that you could jot those down if you need to. Very good.
There's a lot of concern that, you know, the worst thing that could happen would be that if everybody starts to think something's going wrong, kind of creates the situation more than it actually exists. And, you know, so that applies to calling 911. You know, if everybody was to call 911 to check that it's working, that would be a very unfortunate thing. The same thing with a number of, you know, it's kind of, there should be an expectation that systems are going to work, I think, at this point. And so we're operating pretty much on that basis, and we would expect the public to feel confident that that has been looked at.
Good. From a cultural point of view, I'm kind of interested in the phenomena that about a year ago people were talking about get your reservations now at all the hot spots and nightclubs, the top of the Sixes and the Rainbow Room, that these are going to be packed and you can't get a seat anywhere and it's going to be the biggest shindig since you know, for the last 1,000 years. And in fact, the opposite is the case. Everybody seems to want to stay a little close to home, be a little cozy or whatever it is, and I'm finding that all my friends are hanging out, you know, at their home.
A great many people.
You know, and in a way, it's curious that you know, that people are becoming more domestic and less fantastic, you know, as the millennium approaches.
Well, I think the other component is if you read the Journal News the other day, the babysitters are too expensive. That's
probably part of it.
But it's true. A lot of
babysitter.
But it's true. I think a lot of people are going to stay close to home, and you know, I think we're going to see a very smooth transition. You know, whatever can happen that evening can happen any time during the year, and hence the emergency management plan that that Ed referred to is geared to deal with all those different emergencies. The police department, fire department, highway department. We've been here before, so to speak. What hypes this is that we're turning the century.
So in terms of preparation, I mean, we would really be advising that preparation entails exactly what you do for any other, you know, any storm situation type of thing would be a good comparison. So, you know, if that means making sure there's some food in the house, making sure you have a flashlight, that, you know, you have a little pocket change on hand, those kind of things are kind of common sense and certainly are recommended. They, you know, follow some guidelines that were put out by the American Red Cross, who we've worked with closely on this whole project, as well as the emergency management plan. And so there's a number of, you know, common sense type of items you would want to just make sure you have around in any kind of inclement situation, which, you know, in a way would be what this might best be described as, is similar to that storm situation, is that you would make the same preparations.
I see. Yeah, I have here, actually you handed it to me before, some of the emergency preparedness that the American Red Cross suggests that people have, and that is, as you suggested, keep a battery-operated radio in your home, have a flashlight with extra batteries and bulbs. non-perishable food around, snacks in case you need a snack, prescription and non-prescription drugs, have them up to full supply, necessities for the baby, including disposable diapers, etc. Necessities for elderly and infirm members of your family, make sure you're stocked up on those. Important documents, make sure you know where you can get to them, and personal sanitation supplies. We may scroll at the end of the show this list so that you could then, again, also jot that down if that would be so as to help you prepare for that, for the Y2K. Yeah.
Sure, I think it's a good list. It's not, I mean, there's been a lot of hype with Y2K, and I think a lot of it's, it's necessary that these systems get looked at. There are a lot of concerns that could be raised, but from a public safety point of view, I think that we are in very good shape. I think that we are not anticipating any catastrophic events whatsoever. Nonetheless, the emergency services as well as the town government is prepared to deal with eventualities, and we would expect that the public would take the common sense, things that they can do in order to make whatever happens less of a difficulty for everybody.
Well, let me use that last statement to segue into something we talked about before the show, and that is, what can the public do, let's say, to aid the ambulance service, or to, you were mentioning that people can volunteer for the ambulance service and for some other services.
Right, this is a good opportunity to bring up. There are a number of volunteer opportunities within the town of Mamaroneck, and one of them that comes up through this process of emergency management planning is that in trying to put together a shelter plan, we became aware of training for personnel to manage the shelters, and this is training that's provided usually in 2 8-hour components, and so we had set it up with the Red Cross to do that, and we were hoping to send additional employees and volunteers to get trained, and they would be relied upon in any situation where we needed to activate shelters. So we'd be looking for volunteers from the community who wanted to participate in such a program, free training. We have dates tentatively set for January 19th and 20th. They could certainly call my office at 381-7838 if they want information on that, or call United Hospital directly, who's sponsoring the training. There's also opportunities to volunteer within the ambulance services. Like I said before, it's a combined service, so it relies on volunteers. Both the ambulance corps, the Mamaroneck Village EMS and the Larchmont Volunteer Ambulance Corps, take volunteers from all walks of life and provide the training, which is sponsored in large part through the state as well as through the town. And so it's not a cost to the volunteer, but there's a huge opportunity to help people, to learn good skills that can be used in a lot of different scenarios. And we need the help, certainly, with the volunteer ambulance corps.
And one thing I want to add on the shelter volunteers is that the reason that it's important to be in the business of managing our own shelter is that the Red Cross openly admits that in the event of a widespread emergency in Westchester County, that they are incapable of putting up enough shelters in each community to afford assistance to everyone that may need it. By being in the shelter management training program, the Red Cross then assures us that we will have a shelter in our own community that they will provide provisions for: cots, blankets, food supplies. Their shortage comes in bodies, people to run the shelters. So that as opposed to being in a situation where we might be faced with relocating people from Mamaroneck to another community, by having staff and volunteers that will help manage a shelter, we're assured of being able to keep people here in Mamaroneck during an emergency. So again, this is something we are doing in conjunction with the two villages, because this has just incredible benefit to us should it ever be necessary.
Ed, would you like to repeat that number where people can reach you if they want to volunteer?
Certainly, they can reach me with regards to Y2K Emergency Management or the ambulance services at 914-381-7838 anytime.
Great. Well, that about covers it as far as I'm concerned. Is there anything last thing that you'd like to say that I haven't asked you about that you think is important for them?
Enjoy the holiday season and use common sense.
And look for your Y2K babysitter.
A lot of luck with that.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today and viewing our impromptu show, and we hope to have many more of these in the future. Thank you very much.
Look at the camera. Over here. Wave to the camera. Say Happy Halloween.
Ooh, you're going to be on camera. Pretty slack. Down at the right level.
You look so great. There's only one Aaron.
Oh, the painter?
He came out, yeah. Lift your tail, lift your tail.
He looks like an official.
Like I gained a little weight, right?
Sarah, look at the camera. Can you wave hi? You're a sunflower.
Brian didn't see Benjamin didn't imagine.
He goes, is your daddy guilty? And Benjamin, yes.
That's Superman.
Here comes Ghost. Here comes the Ghost. Right there.
Without their costume. He just took them, got them out of the house.
Yes, it's great. I can ask her. I can certainly ask her.
She's got an extra slot. I mean, I'd even use her on a weekly basis just to do. Whoop. Hello. You got it like. That was sleeping.
loving. Anybody have a favorite song for Fritzy to sing? Baba Black Sheep. Here we go. Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for my master and 1 for my name. 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. Careful up there, Mr. Soldier Man. Where are we? We're at the fire station, right? Hurry, hurry, climb the ladder. Hurry, hurry, climb the ladder. Show me how you climb the ladder. Ding, 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 ding. Hurry, hurry, squirt the water. Hurry, hurry, squirt the water. Hurry, hurry, squirt the water. Ding, 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 ding. Faster now. Here we go. Hurry, hurry, drive that fire truck. Hurry, hurry, drive that fire truck. Hurry, hurry, drive that fire truck. Ding, 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 ding. Hurry, hurry, climb the ladder. Hurry, hurry, climb the ladder. Hurry, hurry, climb the ladder. The water. Ding, 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 ding. Everybody sing it out. Together now,
Care? We do. All right.
Natalie! Hey! Natalie, be careful with the guy. Whoever wants this one. Okay, Natalie, who are you today? On the other side. Natalie and Mommy standing on the wall. Natalie and Mommy don't take a little fall. Natalie's playing over there. Somebody grab this little guy. Where's you little guy? Where Natalie's having fun. Natalie's playing. Marielle, who are you? Okay, Marielle. Traveling here from China. That's what the mom said. Traveling on the backpacks, having fun. This is probably.
Look it up with Daddy. You can smile.
Can get a smile out of it.
Hey, Buzz.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Buzz Lightyear. Oh, you can't fly.
Well, you got here. Take a picture of me. I'm gonna go. 'Cause I'm
your hat?
backwards, too.
I can't get up. I gotta get up.
Hey, Buzz, you can't fly.
Put these in there, Mom.
That's not flying. What's that, Chase?
Isabella Mingy's here. Looky. Look, my friends. Go get them just where you were.
I bought a candy today.
Not enough.
Okay, here we go. Look at Mommy. Okay, thank you. Come on out.
Okay, next you've got Maria. You ready?
Ah oui, la messe des familles à Angers. Tu rigoles ou quoi, toutes les heures? La messe des familles dans la cathédrale. C'est ce que je voulais aller. Mais si c'est le test.
You can go get a pretzel if you want. Don't pick it. You want to get a pretzel?
Oops, sorry, excuse us.
You guys want to go get a hot dog, girls? That's right. What's this next song? Is it a choo-choo train song? All right, let's do one more song. Choo-choo. Climb aboard and get ready for a treat. Hear the engines really sound as our train pulls out of town.
Kathleen. Kathleen.
Say, Will, what does a lion say? Go tell Lady what a lion says. Go.
Like this always.
You're on TV.
Salute. Salute.
Salute.
All right, don't salute.
Hi.